This is the book that I'm reading from. Greetings, fam, and welcome to part 2 of how the hell did we end up in modern day Africa, and also how we were conquered as a people. Modern day Africa is the home of the Africans who carry the E1B1B DNA haplogroup. I am not only going to prove to you that not all so-called black people are the exact same people, we are different people, and also to prove to you that the slave trade was total reverse and we were dumped in modern day Africa. Out the gate, it clearly states that the haplogroup E1B1B belongs to the Africans, also people in the Middle East, so-called Middle East, which is really still Africa, and people in Europe as well. What does this say? It is not a major haplogroup in the Americas. Read it again. E1B1B, which is the African DNA, is not a major haplogroup in the Americas. I can finish the video right here, but I'm going to go further. Let's take a look at this map where it basically shows the concentration of the E1B1A and E1B1B haplogroups and where these people reside in modern day Africa. In the map at the top, you can clearly see that E1B1B is mostly concentrated like in heavy numbers, in large numbers, in the Horn of Africa and also in East Africa as well. However, the E1B1B haplogroup is actually spread out throughout the entire continent of Africa. E1B1A, which is the DNA from the Americas, is actually concentrated and scattered all throughout Africa. You see these two arrows? Which countries is it pointing to? What are they trying to tell us? Basically, they're trying to tell us that the greatest concentration of people with the E1B1A haplogroup reside in about like 2 to 3 of the countries in modern day Africa. I'm about to show you those countries right now. But first, I would like to show you how a lot of the countries in West Africa is a mixture of E1B1A and E1B1B. Nigeria is first on the list. As you can clearly see, it states here that there is a large dominant number of E1B1A people in Nigeria. However, they're sprinkled around, and it's showing you, it's breaking it down by their different groups. The Igbos, the Hausa, the Yoruba, and the Fulanis is showing you that Igbos, they have the most E1B1A haplogroup. Again, that's the same DNA of those of us in the Americas. The Hausa, it shows you theirs. There's like a couple of people that are Hausa that are in there. The Yorubas, I don't see any of our DNA in them. And then the Fulanis, it shows you their haplogroup type as well. So let's take a look at those in Ghana. As you can clearly see, there is a sprinkling of both E1B1A and E1B1B. So there are Hamites and Shemites in Ghana. Also, we have the DRC. There is a super large concentration of people in the DRC with E1B1A, but there are also people with E1B1B. It says also haplogroup A, and a couple of other different DNA types that are sprinkled around in there as well. And last but not least, we have Guinea-Bissau. And there is a large concentration, just like in DRC, of people that have the E1B1A haplogroup type. And there are other ones as well that are mixed in there. So which countries have the largest amount of E1B1A DNA? That would be Sierra Leone, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, and also Liberia, which takes the #1 spot. Why is that? Let's talk about it. As I've stated before in many videos, we were taken from the Americas and dumped in Africa, literally. I'll show you why. The reason why people in Liberia, Angola, Sierra Leone, and DRC have such a large concentration of people with E1B1A haplogroup is because there was a society called the American Colonization Society. And in order to deal with their NEGRO problem in America, they decided that they were going to ship us over to modern day Africa to get rid of us. And that's exactly what they did. Throughout the years, they've done many things to get rid of their NEGRO problem, such as the Planned Parenthood places, to yank us out of to terminate our pregnancies. Thank you, Marcus Hanker. Basically, after slavery ended, there were just so many of us in the Americas, and they didn't want to be around us. They didn't want to deal with us. They didn't want to see us. And so in order to get rid of us, we were shipped over to modern day Africa. I mean, is this flag not a dead giveaway? I mean, this is pretty much the American flag. Yes. So basically the Liberians, Sierra Leoneans, and, all the other ones that have super large concentrations of E1B1A DNA haplogroup, those are our people. They're from America. Why do you say they're from America? Well, clearly, E1B1A haplogroup is actually the home to North and South America. As you can clearly see, the DNA is from the top of America all the way down to the bottom of South America, E1B1A. And then we also have the A and the L scattered throughout. That's also the DNA of Pharaoh Ramsey. So-called African Americans. This is our DNA. This is the home of us over here. And as I showed you on the other map, it's scattered throughout Africa. It's in pockets here and pockets there. But over in America, it's fully from the top all the way down to the bottom. So what does that tell you? It should tell you that we actually came from America. We came from the Americas. Because in another video, I showed you how the Haitians and Jamaicans have the largest percentage of E1B1A in all the people in the Caribbean and South America. I found this article to be quite interesting. Why? Because, their version of history is that we were brought from modern day Africa over and dumped into America, which it didn't happen though. It was the complete opposite. So they're telling us, well, so-called Black Americans, if you want to find your relatives, why don't you go to Angola? You're looking in what does it say, in Ghana and other parts of West Africa, but you forgot all about Angola. Does that make sense to y'all? Why would we look over there? Shouldn't we be looking in America? You see, they're telling on themselves. They're basically letting you know, hey, look, we dumped them in Angola too. Why don't you come over and take a look in Angola? Because, yeah, we dumped them over there too, not just in Ghana and Nigeria. Hello. Read between the lines. And so here is the article basically saying that a lot of them were brought into the slave market of Monsango village, and they were sold into bondage there. It was called a point of no return, just like the other castles. And yeah, large numbers of our people are in Angola as well. And from there was a Bantu expansion, and people spread out from there. And then there's also people in East Africa as well that have the E1B1A haplogroup. Who might those people be? None other than the Kikuyu in Kenya. They're the ones that are said to have the Ark of the Covenant. Okay? So they're scattered all throughout Africa. But as you can clearly see, as I showed you, they're from the top of America all the way down to the bottom. That should tell you that this is where y'all came from. Y'all came from America and you were dumped in modern day Africa.